All right. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the informational hearing part of today's event. Thank you all for being here. We have the opportunity to hear from several dynamic speakers this morning who will be giving us insight into the clean technology sector. Panelists will each give a short presentation to be followed by some questions at the end of the panel. And we're here to highlight the success of all of these important industries. As we've already heard, California has the greatest number of solar jobs in the United States, with an estimated 25,500 plus jobs. This is 4 times greater than the next closest state. And in 2009, the study by the Pew Charitable Trust named California as the nation's leading state in clean energy businesses. California's clean technology sector receives $9 billion in private investment capital from 2005 to 2009, and $2.1 billion of that was in 2009 alone. This represents 60% of the total clean technology investment capital in North America, and that is more than 5 times that of the nearest competitor state, which is Massachusetts. Clean technology is a high-growth sector, and reports from the Solar Foundation stated that 23,700 plus more solar jobs are expected next year nationally. Of course, we were all very disappointed to hear the closure of Solyndra, and that's one of our local companies, and we're all very concerned about the workers who have lost their jobs. But we know that this does not show how the success of these important industries will continue into the future. And we want to thank those companies who have actually rehired some of these workers, and I know Solaria has been a leader in that, so we thank you for that. And we can't let those who have never supported green tech to use the tragedy of Solyndra to reverse all of the positive things we have accomplished by supporting important technologies in California, such as wind, solar, and electric cars. So we're here today to talk about how we should redouble our efforts to create a clean tech economy that will put California back to work and help our environment at the same time. And I would like to also introduce Assemblymember Bob Wieckowski, who's here with us today also to give some welcoming remarks.
Well, good morning. And thank you, Senator, for putting this hearing together, the inaugural Select Committee on Green Jobs, Solar, Wind, and Clean Technologies. And thank you for this is another fine example of your leadership and efforts to ensure that state policies promote clean energy and the green jobs right here in California. I'd like to thank all the panelists, the first panelist who's assembled here, for participating in today's hearing. Our keynote speaker was illuminating in some of the challenges that we have here in California and the optimism that I think reverberates through the valley. It's an impressive group of accomplished innovators that we have here today, and I appreciate everybody taking time out of your busy schedule to come here and participate in the Select Committee hearing so that your state senator and assembly person can go back with the message of what's happening here in the Valley. I hope and I anticipate that this is going to be very informative and ultimately a very productive hearing. We're providing fertile ground for a clean energy industry here in California, and it's of critical importance for both economic growth and meeting our renewable energy goals. I'm hopeful that the hearing today, and it started off with the keynote speaker very well, is going to provide me with some valuable insight on how California can appropriately modify our regulations that provide cost-effective incentives and otherwise work to promote clean energy job creation in our state. As the Senator indicated, the unfortunate Chapter 11 filing of Solyndra is a significant setback for our local clean energy economy. However, I do not believe that it should be seen as a referendum on government efforts to promote economic growth and employment in the energy sector. And as we've learned, it seems we almost have an anemic investment in renewable portfolio compared to our traditional fossil fuel energy sources in nuclear energy. I recognize recognize that under any realistic scenario, fossil fuels are going to continue to be an important part of our energy portfolio. But Californians believe that it's time to move forward with our clean energy future. We know we have a 33% goal of renewables. It's been suggested that perhaps this is the time to have a 51% goal in our renewable portfolio. We've made a lot of progress in this direction already, and there's hope and optimism in everybody that's been assembled here today. And I hope that today you will provide me with some ideas to go forward in Sacramento. Thanks again, Senator Corbett, for putting this together, and I look forward to the testimony.
And thank you very much, Assemblymember Wachowski, and your leadership as well in this very important technology sector. Very much appreciate your hard work in Sacramento. So let's welcome the panelists. The first panel will be talking about California's clean energy economy, technologies being deployed, and what is on the horizon. Our panelists will be Suvi Sharma, President, Solaria Corporation, Paul Gutwald, who is the Vice President of Marketing and Government Relations at Symbol Materials, Mark Mendenhall, General Manager, North America, Sun Edison, Brian Sager, PhD, Co-founder, NanoSolar, and Alyssa Peterson, Director of Product Marketing and Business Development, Primus Power. And we will start with Mr. Sharma. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, as a part of Solaria, I'd also like to just welcome everyone here. We're very honored to have our distinguished guests here, and we believe very strongly in the growth of California in this area. Solaria is a classic Silicon Valley innovative company in many respects. We've developed a unique technology to lower the cost of producing solar energy. It's been developed here in California, primarily in Fremont. We've been here for about 5 years now. The company's been around since 10 years. So it's taken quite a while of development and hard work, some luck, to get here, but we're very, very looking forward to the future of solar industry as it really becomes a real energy industry. I think just to comment a few words on the Solyndra fallout and the resulting aspects of that, we do believe that, like any industry, I actually worked in the internet industry before this, we saw a real trough, and many companies go under. And to be honest, there will be more. But there were great successes created. And it's just like any other industry. There will be successes and failures. That's what makes Silicon Valley and California so great, is the willingness to take some risks and to see the other side, and that there will be companies that will be very successful, some of those that are represented here on the panel. What Solaria is really about is participating in really the sea change that's occurring in front of us, from a fossil fuel-based power and energy industry to a clean energy industry, and participating in that. We believe that solar photovoltaic power will be a key driver of that. A lot of it has been cost and driving the cost down. Costs have come down significantly. When I got into the solar business was in 2003. That's when I joined Solaria. I was very small at the time, a few people. And solar panels were roughly around $4.50 a watt. Today, you're seeing prices of close to $1 a watt. Phenomenal cost reductions, which portends great success and growth in the industry. Another aspect of, just to give you some context, in 2003 when I joined, there were about 250 to 300 megawatts of annual production of solar panels. This year there will be somewhere around 20,000 megawatts. So when you look at that, it's amazing to read the reports about the doomsday in solar, and when there's so much growth and cost reductions that have already occurred and more that will occur. One of the greatest disconnects we see in what's happening in solar and on the public perception and the policy front is, and related to also, for example, the Solyndra fallout, is that there's too much solar. There's too many solar panels. There's an inventory of at least 2,000 megawatts, maybe 3,000 megawatts of solar panels sitting in warehouses. Now, I'd like for you to think about that for a minute. Too much solar. that should not be a phrase that should be uttered at all. And so when we hear that solar is not scalable, solar is we need natural gas, or we need coal, or we need nuclear because they're here today. I want people to think about 2,000 to 3,000 megawatts of solar panels sitting in the warehouse that haven't been deployed yet. That's how much solar is coming, and believe it or not, there's more coming. The factories in U.S., in Europe, and China have actually started to turn down the dials on their manufacturing. They're not operating at full capacity because of the glut of solar panels. And I think that is, it's almost criminal behavior for our society to put those in inventory and yet build gas, coal, and fossil fuel power plants when we should be building more and more solar power plants. And so in our view, it's really, a lot of it is scaling up and reducing costs, but a lot of it is really the deployment of this. Educating and informing the public, educating and informing people in government who don't spend all their days thinking about solar like we do, about what the potential is, what can we do on the policy front, what can we do on the education front, what can we do in the university systems to continue to build out this infrastructure that will really drive a sea change. And we have to start at home here in California. There's the phrase think global, act local, I think is no more true than it is in the clean tech industry. We need to start with that change here. And as Nancy mentioned, we are expanding here. We're operating. We've gone to 3 shifts just to here in Fremont. We've scaled up our workforce. We continue on growing more. We also continue on growing elsewhere in the world. We don't see it as a either-or scenario of do we grow in California or do we grow elsewhere. Solar is a solution for a global issue, which is energy and climate change, and we plan on growing in all of those places and continue and look forward to being a key member of the growing clean tech community in California. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma, and thank you for your hospitality today as well. Thank you. Mr. Gutwald.
Yes, my name is Paul Gutwald. I'm the VP of Marketing for Symbol Materials, and we're a slightly different company here, so I'll spend some time talking about what we are, what we're doing, and what our role is towards the clean energy economy going forward. Briefly, our company is put together a proprietary technology where we're actually reinventing how we create critical battery materials like lithium, manganese, and zinc. What we're doing is we put together a technology that allows us to extract those materials from the geothermal brine source in the Salton Sea area. And our technology, basically what we do is we borrow the brine for about 90 minutes and then produce those materials. We also utilize from the geothermal power plant byproducts like CO2, wastewater, condensate in the production of those materials. So in this way, we are producing the materials needed to drive those clean energy economy right in our backyard using renewable energy, which we think is by far one of the best sources, no offense, of renewable energy. So how we got here today, a little bit about that. So unlike traditional methods of making lithium, for example, which require tens of thousands of acres of PVC line or water, create mountains of waste, we have rethought a different way of working. And I started out with utilizing the great resources in California. Lawrence Laboratories was a great embryonic source for us to get going. In addition, like yourself, able to leverage some great VC funding, more David Dow partners, Farley Capital, as well as, importantly for us, some critical seed funding from the Department of Energy, along with from the state of California, from DOE grants and tax exemptions. Those were vital for us to help us bridge the gap from being the valley of death, going from 10 employees back in 2008 to over 52 employees as we speak today. And as importantly, it's helped us to fund necessary investments to go from a beaker to now running a demonstration plant in the Southern California area, launching a commercial plant, and hopefully beginning groundbreaking on our first initial lithium plant in 2012. And give you some scale here. Each 50 megawatt power plant in the Salton Sea area can produce about 16,000 tons of lithium, which is needed for EVs. That corresponds to about 800,000 EVs that each geothermal power plant can produce today. Now, there's many resources in the Salton Sea area, so it's more than likely when you drive an EV going forward, it will come from your own backyard, from the Salton Sea, wholly produced by Symbol Materials. So going forward, we feel that it's vital for us to help to continue. We think the state of California has been phenomenal in terms of providing support, the funding, the grants, providing a very clean and transparent permitting process, and as important, to continue to provide the incentives to help us continue to grow, develop our technology in partnership that we think is key to making our technology and the clean energy economy a success.
Thank you. Thank you very much also, Mr. Gottwald, and thank you for those kind words with the work that we are doing at the state level.
Yes, it's been a huge thing for us, so we want to thank you for that.
It's very nice to hear. Thank you. Mr. Mendenhall.
Right. So good morning, Madam Chairman, Senator Corbett, and Assemblyman Wachowski. My name is Mark Mendenhall. I'm the president of North America for SunEdison. So thank you for inviting SunEdison to participate in this panel and discuss the opportunities for growing clean energy across California. First, allow me to introduce SunEdison. We are North America's largest solar services provider. I'm going to stop there. We're the largest, and we just recently relocated to California. We install, develop, finance, and operate distributed power plants using proven and advanced photovoltaic, I can never say that, technology. PV, that's a lot easier, for both commercial, government, and utility customers. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of MEMC, a U.S.-based company based in St. Louis, and which is a global leader in the production of polysilicon wafers for both semiconductor and solar industries. MEMC operates 3 business units: our semiconductor materials business unit, our solar materials business unit, and our solar energy business unit named SunEdison. As a subsidiary of MEMC, SunEdison is able to use the synergy between these different MEMC capabilities and its 50 years of technology as a wafer chip manufacturer to help finance, build, and operate the solar energy projects around the world. With more than 340 megawatts deployed and 500 government, commercial, and utility solar energy projects installed, managed, and operated, SunEdison is the leading global energy services provider, and we're continuing to grow. In 2010, we deployed more than 160 megawatts of solar throughout the world. By owning and managing the solar installation from concept through completion, we provide clients with comprehensive, cost-effective, emission-free energy solutions. For our commercial, government, and residential customers, we provide access to financing and tax credits that they would otherwise not have been able to take advantage of. We sell them back that power at a cost, at a guaranteed rate for the term of the contract, providing them with long-term, low-cost green energy. Through our strategy of vertical integration and matching our upstream capacity to downstream installations, we gain a global competitive advantage to help improve our efficiency and reduce our costs. Ultimately, a key goal for us is to aggressively drive down the costs of our business to achieve grid parity for solar with other types of energy production. We also have a long history of operating in California. In fact, some of our biggest projects are catered to serve this state, including the California Department of Corrections and higher education institutions in the UC and CSU systems. Some of our other customers in the state include Anheuser-Busch, the City of San Diego, Kohl's, Staples, AT&T, Xcel Energy, the U.S. Department of Energy, and various other utility projects for the state's investor-owned utilities. These commercial and utility projects have been made successful in providing predictable, clean, and low-cost energy revenue. I'm also pleased to let you know that we formally announced with Governor Jerry Brown 2 weeks ago that we have moved our global headquarters from Maryland to California. And you might ask why a company would move to California with all the negative press about the state's economy and business climate. Well, the short answer is we see tremendous opportunities in California, as it remains the hotbed for leading technology companies. Our move to Belmont will help us continue to grow as the Silicon Valley provides a business-friendly environment for the solar industry. We also believe that the Silicon Valley offers us access to people who have the education, talent, and passion that will help us succeed. This is also coupled with the fact that California policymakers, our friends across the table here from us, have been helping the solar industry grow throughout groundbreaking initiatives and legislation like the California Global Warming Solutions Act, which is AB 32, the 33% renewable portfolio standard, and the California Solar Initiative, net metering, and the clarification of the property tax AB 15. I'd like to particularly highlight AB 15 because that's what really triggered our move here to California. It was offered by Assemblyman Jerry Hill and signed by Governor Brown this year. The bill clarified the tax treatment for active solar energy systems involved in a sale-leaseback transaction by allowing the property owners to add solar to their buildings without having to pay additional tax. Prior to AB 15, there was some ambiguity in the law, and as whether or not the property tax exclusion, which was passed in 1980 under Prop 7, would allow active solar energy systems provided in sale-leaseback transactions. But with the tremendous assistance of the Board of Equalization, Jerome Horton, Betty Yee, and George Runner, in addition to Assemblyman Hill, that issue has been clarified. Passage of AB 15 significantly helps SunEdison in its decision to move to California because it ensures that there's going to be continued economic investment in rooftop and similar solar installations throughout the state. In addition, each solar project we bring to California not only creates solar SunEdison jobs, but we create thousands of other jobs for the installers, suppliers, and construction companies that build these solar installations. Going forward, it's important that the legislature and the policymakers understand the connection between the policies that are developed and the legislation in the government agencies and how that impacts future technologies. The long-term outlook for the solar industry is excellent. And the role of solar in the broader energy industry will continue to increase. We know that the benefits are real. They are attractive. It's clean. It's renewable. It's abundant. It's easy to harness. And it does not need to rely on foreign sources. The key to continued success is low cost, adequate return, and requires a stable and transparent policy and regulatory framework. Consumers and businesses want renewable energy. It just needs it to be cost competitive. For SunEdison, we are looking out over the horizon of the new technologies that can possibly help us grow, not only in the solar market, but also the renewable energy and technology industry as a whole. With our success in solar and our investment in innovation, technology, and cost control, we are looking at ways of providing innovative energy solutions around the world. For example, we recently announced that SunEdison has joined forces with Pecan Street in a grid project. As part of its role, SunEdison will be leading development of advanced home solar PV charging systems for the Chevrolet Volt electric vehicle. This will include a number of SunEdison-led home solar vehicle charging stations having in-home batteries, allowing them to integrate into home services systems provided by Pecan Street and other partners, including Best Buy, Intel, Sony, and Whirlpool. In addition, SunEdison Energy and Environmental Data System, which we call SEEDS, will be used in this project to help gather consumer energy information. With respect to the policies we think will be needed to continue growing the solar market and clean technology in California, we offer the following. According to the California Energy Commission, California will have over 1.5 electric vehicles on the road by 2020, creating pollution-free transportation for millions of Californians, but also increasing the demand for electricity. However, all of California's expected electricity demand can be met with energy efficiency and customer-generated solar energy. In order to provide customers the opportunity to manage their energy needs with cost-effective technologies, California must ensure that common-sense policies like net metering are preserved for all customers. We applaud California's leadership in renewable energy policy, the 33% RPS, and the governor's 12,000 megawatt distributed generation goal, which are and can be great models for the other states. And because of California's policy leadership, we are well on the way of achieving those objectives. In order for California to remain on the cutting edge of technology development and clean energy economy, we urge the legislature to look beyond the 2020 and provide a long-term policy roadmap to provide certainty to investors and to the market of California so we can continue to be the incubator of innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendenhall. And I know Assemblymember Wachowski and I hope to continue working with you to meet this concern and goal for net metering, to meet our growing needs in a green technology way. And I want to also, of course, thank you for bringing your business, your company to California. Hope you're part of a stampede of people who will continue to come to California and grow their jobs here. Thank you very much. Mr. Sager.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you all for being here today. We're very happy to participate in this forum and would like to describe a little bit about NanoSolar and then talk about ways which we can grow manufacturing in California. We founded NanoSolar in November 2001. So like Solaria, we are a 10-year-old company. It takes some time to build up to the point where you're building products for the market, and we are at that point today. NanoSolar has a 200,000 square foot cell production facility based in San Jose and employs more than 300 workers at that facility, as well as panel production facilities in Europe. NanoSolar has roughly $500 million in investment to date, roughly $400 million from private equity, and about $100 million from federal development. And from both those sources, we've been able to build out a very robust R&D platform, develop the technology, certify the product, bring it to market, and are deploying it around the world today. NanoSolar prints solar cells on a metal foil and a roll-to-roll printing press using an electronic ink. The nano of NanoSolar are very small nanometer scale particles which are part of that ink. By printing our cells, we can produce our panels and cells very fast and amortize the cost of a factory with a very high throughput line, and that drives down the cost of manufacturing substantially. NanoSolar has been focused on building out manufacturing in the United States, in particular in California, because we have very close ties to universities, in particular Stanford and Berkeley here. Many of our employees have very close ties to the communities in the Bay Area, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with all the folks here, as well as all the infrastructure, legal, financial, tool vendors, and so forth, that are all very important part of the cluster of competitive technologies which comprise the Bay Area. There are, however, challenges in building up manufacturing facilities. They cost a lot of money, as I'm sure you all know. And in terms of policy, it's very important to balance demand and supply side incentives. We have AB 32 in California. We have the 33% RPS, which was passed recently. We have SB 175 in process. Very many approaches to helping to stimulate demand in California, which manufacturers in California certainly appreciate. We also need help on the supply side, and in particular with financing the build-out of manufacturing. So let me give you one example. There's a bill also being considered right now, AB 796 by Assemblyman Blumenfeld, which creates a loan loss reserve mechanism to build out several potential financing instruments. And I'll give you examples of two ways in which that could work. The first is to create low-cost loans for manufacturing facilities. As you all know, the Department of Energy's loan guarantee program is sunsetting right now. Last month, they finished their offerings, and there are a lot of possibilities for helping companies right now at the state level, which would be very effective and potentially very cost-effective. So let me differentiate what the state could do versus what the DOE loan program has done. The loan program typically provides hundreds of millions of dollars to build out an entire production facility, everything in the manufacturing floor, the full physical infrastructure of the building, sales, general administrative functions, and so forth. So fairly substantial involvement. We would suggest that the state could participate in a much more targeted and focused way with what we would call equipment bottleneck loans. And the way to think about this is any manufacturing facility has different tools that produce product at different rates. And there's some tool in each factory which limits the rate of production because it's the slowest moving part in that factory. So being able to provide loans that are very targeted, they may be $10, $20 million, that kind of scale, to buy 1, 2, 3 or more different bottleneck tools would release the production bottleneck and allow the rest of the factory to be run in a much more balanced way. And in that way, you could use a relatively small loan to non-linearly increase the production output of a factory substantially. So the loan loss reserve mechanism in AB 796 is one way we could do that. But the targeted equipment bottleneck loans are a very cost-efficient and capital-efficient mechanism by which production could be released without incurring hundreds of millions of dollars of loans per company. So that's one example. A second would be product warranty insurance. And this gets to the issue of bankability for new products. Every new product, by definition, has no operating history. And when you have no operating history and you go to a third-party financier that your customer has engaged to do diligence on the risk assessment of a project, that third-party engineer will come to your manufacturing operation and say, We'd like to see your 20-year history of your panel performance. Well, we don't have a 20-year history. We're a 10-year-old company, and we don't have that kind of operating data. So the third-party engineer will say, without that data, I can't assign risk. And without being able to assign the risk associated with that, it's difficult to underwrite the debt. And so a debt financier has difficulty providing project financing for our customers. So there are two ways right now companies that have new products build out their deployment through their customers. One is to work with companies that are deploying using pure equity. So they have no debt financing, so this bankability issue doesn't come up. That can be pursued, but not that many companies can provide 100% equity financing for their project, so it's relatively small. The other thing that many companies do is simply wait, do relatively small deployments and build up several years of operating history data, which then allows the underwriting data for debt financing to proceed. In that latter case, though, the waiting period means that you're not hiring workers, you're not hiring people in the deployment sites to install those projects because you're just simply waiting for the data to accumulate. So one way around that would be to do a public-private partnership of bankability in the first few years, in the first 2 to 3 years, for example, of a 25-year lifetime of a warranty panel, where the state would back a company's private insurance. And in doing so, it would make the product bankable years earlier than otherwise be the case. In that scenario, the product warranty insurance supported by the state would allow companies to deploy their product without the long operating history that would otherwise be required. This provides very little downside risk to the state in that although we don't have the 25-year data in the industry, all of us have to have passed Underwriters Lab and other IEC testing of our products and need to be certified before they can be deployed. And those accelerated aging tests are predictive to at least 7 to 10 years of panel history. So while they don't get you to the 25-year point, and that's why you need field data from operating plants in order to satisfy that, they certainly get you beyond the 2 to 3 year period in which the state would be involved. So the state would have very low risk associated with product warranty insurance and a time frame which is roughly a third of the predictive lifetime of accelerated aging tests. So those are just two examples of potential financing instruments that would help the demand side for solar panel manufacturing in particular, and more broadly renewable energy manufacturing. Several of other industries within clean tech have the same bankability issues. Electric car batteries come to mind, as do wind turbines. So this is far more broad than solar and could really substantially grow the industry. So we'd encourage you to think about AB 796 and the creative ways in which a loan loss reserve could be used to accelerate clean tech growth in California. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sager, and we also look forward to continuing exploring this issue of financing for new products. After all, really what we're talking about here is new innovation, which does have its challenges when it comes to funding, but it sounds like you are developing a great idea that we can work on to help continue to bring these new products to market. So thank you. Ms. Peterson?
Thanks. Oh, thank you. Thank you. My name is Alyssa Peterson, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing and Business Development for Primus Power. And I just wanted to thank you for inviting us here today. It's an honor to talk to this panel and to you, Senator Corbett, and Assemblymember Wajkowski. So I'm going to start out talking a little bit about storage in general and what it does as the representative for energy storage here on the panel today, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about Primus Power and how we've grown and been supported by California, and then just touch upon a couple of opportunities for policy to enable energy storage as the latest clean technology to join. California is leading the country and setting the pace in the world for the building of a clean energy economy. And I'd like to thank the Assembly member and the Senator for leading that charge, and for the CPUC and the CEC and the ARB for their leadership as well. Renewable energy is a fantastic resource, and it's allowing us to meet the energy needs of our communities while preserving the environment for future generations. It's also bringing clean jobs to the state, and to the country as businesses grow up here to participate in what we're doing. However, there's some challenges that are presented by the addition of renewables to the electricity grid, and this is where energy storage can step in order to enable a much larger growth in the renewable energy sector. Energy storage acts like a shock absorber or a spring for the electric power grid, which makes it more flexible and therefore more renewable ready. It can avoid large investments in transmission through allowing more renewables to be sited closer to the load centers without impacting electric reliability. And it also has the attribute of being zero emitting and using no water. It also allows utilities to maintain capital efficiency because of the short lead time that they have in order to build out energy storage projects. So we believe that with storage, we will be much more efficient in our pursuit of a clean energy vision, both environmentally and fiscally. Primus Power is a California company right to the core. Our technology was developed by our founder, Rick Winter, based on his getting funding from it was a peer grant that started our company, and we received $95,000 from, Rick received $95,000 and made our prototype in his garage. So it's a very Silicon Valley story. And since then, we've grown now, 2 years since the founding of the company. We've grown to 30 people in a 22,000 square foot facility in Hayward, California. Our plan for development is to have our first third-party utility demonstration, which we are planning to do at PG&E's San Ramon facility towards the end of next year. And what that would then lead to is commercialization in 2013. So through the end of next year, we also were planning to nearly double in size from that 30 people today by the end of next year, and growth from there in 2013 as we start to then bring on mass manufacturing of our product. So there's I think a couple of policy mechanisms which can help to support energy storage as we're entering this period of kind of massive growth in our industry. And a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are really similar for what the state has done for renewable energy in the past. And it's mostly an extension of the things that have been done for renewable energy, which would help to make energy storage that would support that renewable energy possible. The main things that would enable the growth of energy storage here in California have to do with creating the market here in California. The businesses and innovators that came for renewable energy came because of the way that California created a market for the products, and the investors located here to meet that need that was created by the fact that there was a market. And there's a couple of things that we can do for energy storage in that effect. So one of the major barriers to building out energy storage is that it's not clear right now how the owner of such an asset, which is contributing to the grid, would get paid for such an asset, and that's a showstopper for the owners. So there's a couple of things that we could do to help with that. One would be to add an adder to the MPR, which then when utilities are purchasing renewable energy, the folks that are developing renewable energy would then be able to get paid for the stability of that power that they're feeding onto the grid. Another thing that we could do would be to extend the feed-in tariff, which is being considered for renewables at the customer side, through Section 399.20 of the PUC's code. We could extend that to storage, which also helps to, the reason being that storage acts in a very similar way that renewables do by reducing the amount of transmission and distribution infrastructure that's required in order to get energy, because it reduces peak power requirements at the customer bill level, and it also reduces carbon emissions at the same time because it eliminates some of the need for peaking power, which is much more CO2 intensive than baseload power would be, especially due to the build out of wind in our state and local, surrounding states, which is making baseload power less and less carbon intensive. It also would allow, combining it with solar at the customer site also would allow a greater build out of solar on some of these distribution infrastructure, helping to, eliminate more peaking power than would otherwise be needed. The third thing that we could talk about would be to pressure FERC to settle the third-party delivery of ancillary services. They've started an NOI on this, and they've received comments. This is really important for utilities like PG&E in Southern California Edison. Currently, if they put storage in a substation in order to allow a greater growth of solar in a particular area, they have a difficult time getting that approved by FERC because of the need to separate distribution assets and generation assets. And so if storage needs to be classified as either generation or distribution or transmission, but it's not any of those things, and it can perform in each of those functions with the same asset, and because of that, it's hit a snag in the road to growth because of the need for, the accounting policy and the need to avoid market power. So it would really be helpful to reinforce to FERC how important it is to get this settled. And I'd like then to echo very much Brian's call for project loan financing structures. We have the same issue with bankability. We're a 2-year-old company, and we can't provide 20 years of data. So it will be challenging to early projects to find customers which have deep enough balance sheets that they can afford to take the risk completely on equity to purchase the large, systems that are large enough. And so we are, in the absence of project loan guarantees looking for customers such as that, but the presence of loan guarantees would very much open the market for our product. And finally, on the subject of manufacturing support, there's extension of sales and use tax exclusions and manufacturing loan guarantees. I was not going to bring up the Solyndra, but since it's been done already, I was, the presence of manufacturing support mechanisms are really important to help keeping us here in California. We are committed to U.S.-based manufacturing and would love when the time is right in 2013 to extend manufacturing here in California in order to keep it close to our R&D facility. So would appreciate, all of that based upon the ability to, economically site here, and so would echo everything that has been said before about the presence of manufacturing support mechanisms. Overall, I'd just like to thank you for your time here today and for listening, and hope to talk further about what energy storage can do for the economy in California.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson, and thank you, too, for the innovation at Primus, which is so very important to the continued success of some of our renewable energies. Obviously, storage is so important to that. We appreciate your commitment also to keep your jobs local. And in a moment, I'm going to ask a question about siting manufacturing with R&D. So you'll probably jump in and want to answer that question. Okay. And Assemblymember Wachowski, do you have any comments or questions as we...
Well, I guess I'd like to hear from the other panelists on this idea of financing, the state providing either a guarantee or a loan program for some of these at the manufacturing stage. How important do you think that is in the overall renewable environment?
Whoever would like to answer, please jump in.
I can comment on that. First of all, energy industry is a very conservative industry. Unlike consumer electronics or semiconductors, where people are looking for the next great iPhone gadget, utilities and the like don't usually wake up thinking, I want the next, most innovative solar panel or new technology. They want something that's going to work and that's reliable. I think from our perspective, the first step, though, is to create a product that does have inherent reliability, right? And I think that's a key thing, because the risk is great for a lot of new technologies, and the more you try to do something that is totally innovative and very, very new, the more difficult it's going to be, no matter what the government does to support it. And so from that perspective, if you look even at the DOE, the Department of Energy and the like, they have funded projects and R&D programs that I would call Hail Mary approaches, and ones that, from our perspective, will never prove out, most likely. So the challenge in any kind of incentive or subsidy program on the warranty side is it has to be sustainable beyond the government subsidizing it for a long period of time. And, and I'm not here to pick on Solyndra, but I think it's good to learn from the past. And the challenge with that, and the lesson that should be learned, is at some point the government can't keep supporting a company like that. What happens when it can't support it anymore? And there has to be a sustainable product, a sustainable business model. And so our view is that it's fine to do it for a period of time. And we've struggled with that at Solaria as well, in terms of bringing a new product to market. But a lot of it is just bread and butter. Prove your product, prove the technology works. I believe that it could be, if used selectively, it's good, but I don't think it's a good blanket mechanism, honestly, because it can get very expensive very quickly. And the last thing we want is more fallout from the public or the government saying, "Gosh, we don't want to support any new technologies because of the money's lost." And we should have had foresight to know that the product would not last for 25 years. That's required as an example. So I think if used selectively and allocated with a certain amount of discrete funding, and look at technologies that can wean themselves off quickly, would be an important element of that process, because the long-term sustainability is what's going to drive the industry and new technologies forward. So I think if used selectively with certain pockets of money, and then using a criteria that technologies that can wean themselves off fairly quickly off of the government warranty programs, those are the types of programs that we would, from Solaria's perspective, think would be useful for the industry and driving innovation in California.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to jump in on that?
Just one comment. I guess we're a little bit different, because we are so far down in the supply chain, quite frankly, that companies like us who are making the critical components, the materials, whether cathode powders or whatnot, typically are not allowed to participate in these programs. Where conversely, in Japan, China, Korea, that is first and foremost. They recognize the foundation of a critical economy is having your materials and components in place. So hopefully you'll begin to recognize, and legislation will be able to address, making this eligible for those types of programs in the supply chain.
Okay, thank you.
College. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in and ask another question just to keep on schedule. We've heard from many companies that it's very important to co-locate manufacturing and research and development. And I've heard it's very important because of the ongoing cutting-edge innovation. It's important to be able to go to the line and work on the research and development right there in one place. And we know, of course, in California there are certain reasons that we do so well in research and development. Obviously, our wonderful higher education system, our local labs are helpful to that too. But how do we make sure we continue to capitalize on that synergy and bringing manufacturing jobs to California? Maybe you want to comment on that?
When we started NanoSolar, we received a $75,000 peer grant, which helped to bootstrap us. So the peer program in its early days was incredibly important for us, and that resulted in the $500 million follow-on funding. So like Primus Power, we very much appreciate that program. R&D support is critical. The financing instruments that AB 796 would provide that we just discussed a little bit, the product warranty insurance, the equipment bottleneck loans, those types of mechanisms are helpful as well. Most important of all, though, beyond any particular program, is stability in policy. None of us can plan if no policy survives an election cycle. Policy must transcend election cycles for anybody in the business community to be able to do long-term planning. The reason that Germany is one of the top solar markets in the world, in spite of its lack of sunny resource, is because of that stability over many years. Both the left and right wing have worked together to make sure that their feed-in tariffs were predictive over time. Even with the recent decrements in those tariffs, they were discussed in advance in enough time that allowed people to really think about what to do. So stability of policy is really important. If we have issues like the public goods charge not coming up, running out of time, trying to pass it at midnight in the Senate, it sets all of us, sour stomachs. We think, well, how can we depend upon the legislature in California if they can't even decide whether to pursue these issues or not? So stability is very important. Predictability arises from that stability, and that allows investment.
Well, you had two supporters right here who supported getting that legislation through this year, by the way. Yes.
I'll comment on this as well. At Solaria, we have production here right in the same building as our R&D and product development. The thing about production is one has to separate small-scale production / pilot production from high-volume manufacturing. So we believe it's absolutely essential to have some level of small-scale production in the same place you're doing R&D and product development. Especially, that's how you'll innovate. That's how you'll continue to drive the process forward, development forward. And there's just no comparison to having the engineers being able to put on their lab coats, go in the back, and figure out what's going on with the product, the process. And if you look at the semiconductor industry, many of them that even are fabless or don't have any production in the U.S., they typically will have a pilot line here in Silicon Valley. So that is a very, very critical part of development and the life cycle of development. High volume manufacturing is a different entity altogether. In fact, we don't necessarily even want to have very high volume manufacturing exactly in the same building, because you want the focus of the people in that building to be on R&D and product development and not on getting outs and yields and things of that nature. Okay. That being said, we would love to do high volume manufacturing close by because of all the benefits of our headquarters and our engineers being able to go to that production line when needed, and also from the perspective of being close to market. California is one of our core target markets. Mm-hmm. So in terms of looking at policies and supporting production, I would separate the pilot production or small-scale production from very high-volume production. And when I say small-scale production, it's easy to dismiss that, but that's actually a tremendous amount of jobs and high-quality jobs and taxes that creates. We have quite a bit of equipment in the back. We employ quite a few people there, both full-time as well as operators and contract labor. And so it's an important part. In fact, we today have more people working on the pilot production and small production line than we do in the office. Okay, so it's a substantial portion. But in terms of a 300, 400, 500 megawatt factory with 1,000 people, that is a very, very different set of processes. Not to say that California can't compete in that. There are some structural challenges in California in being competitive with that. Some of those, the use tax that most states don't have, right? And so the exemption on that, for clean tech is very important. Just to be competitive, not even to have a competitive advantage, but just to be competitive with other states such as Oregon and Mississippi. Another element is states like Oregon and Mississippi do have low-cost loans that Nancy brought up. Those are very, very critical. The market is hugely critical. Shipping costs are only going to increase over time with the increased costs of fossil fuels and oil and so on. And so anywhere where California can create a environment that builds a strong local market, such as the SB 175 that for state programs that can give a 5% bonus add on California-made panels, it is a more expensive place to manufacture here. We have to be honest about that. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense. And so we are very, very cost-focused. We're in a very cost-focused industry. But we are seriously evaluating California because there are a lot of hidden costs that go into manufacturing anywhere that sometimes can be lower in California, and so those need to be taken into account. But I think in terms of looking at setting policy or places like Fremont, for example, do we believe Fremont is the best place for high volume manufacturing? We don't know. We have to evaluate that in terms of the overall cost. But it certainly is a great place to do. We know it's a great place to do small scale production, and we're doing it today and ramping that up as we speak.
How important is it to have nearby suppliers, providers of component parts, etc.?
Critical.
Yes.
Critical.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I'll just quickly touch on that because we look at that. If you look at just a solar panel, the cost of shipping inbound materials into your plant are more than shipping modules out to your customer. Wow. Okay. Wow. And one of the great benefits China has right now in solar panel production costs is the supply chain is there. Your inbound costs are very low. And that means, and in a business where pennies matter, it makes a huge difference. And so, and one other thing we've told also the federal, the DOE group is try to support supply chain manufacturing, not just the panels, but the input materials, glass, encapsulants, frames, balance of systems. All these things drive down the overall manufacturing cost and make it a lot more competitive in California and the U.S.
I'd like to expand upon that, in particular with the glass, which makes up one of the largest costs of any solar panel. Glass foundries, even a small foundry costs $100 million. The glass foundries around the world providing low iron content, high transmission of light specialty glass have to decide, will they do these runs alongside or in place of more traditional building material glass like the glass that makes up this room, or automotive glass that a car manufacturer might use. And the entire solar market in the aggregate globally is a drop in the bucket relative to the size of the building material market. So it is difficult for them to come to the conclusion that they should dedicate a line to glass manufacturing, for example. So supporting a microfoundry in glass that all the solar panel manufacturers could use would help, for example, so we wouldn't have to have that dynamic with our industry being much smaller than many others. I'd like to expand on one other point, too. Beyond cost savings by having the vendor infrastructure clustered, there's also a lot of knowledge sharing that can take place, and in particular, panel manufacturing entities often hire as employees folks from their supply chain who have particular expertise in certain areas. So there is a migration back and forth in that area, which is tremendously useful for all parties involved. So, and as well as the tool vendor infrastructure, the venture capital folks who provide professional financial services, the legal folks who understand startup companies and their growth path to becoming public entities, all of this commingling in the same general location allows facile face-to-face meetings and a lot more knowledge sharing that would take place if we were, for example, in an isolated area in Mississippi or Oregon, frankly. So the co-location is important from that perspective as well.
Thank you very much. Yes.
And if I could just touch on that a bit, one of the reasons I mentioned earlier that we moved to California was because of the developing solar ecosystem that exists within this area. It's the storage technology, which we believe is critical going forward. It's the energy efficiency. It's the semiconductor and electronics technology that is critical to the efficiency. And it's the manufacturers as well. So I think rather than, even though I know manufacturing jobs are critical, our manufacturing jobs are a bit different. We have to hire locally and build the facilities locally. But the difference is the infrastructure that you can create that's unique to the Bay Area, that you can market, is really what we should be leveraging on, because that's what attracted us and it'll attract others as well.
Very good to hear. That means opportunity for more jobs, and we're very happy about that. Let's please applaud the speakers this time. Thank you. Thank you all very much. We're going to move to our second panel. We're going to take about a 10-minute break so we can get the table ready and give an opportunity for the speakers to move up to the table. And we'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you.